It is time for the MMA Strategy Show right here on Awesemo.com. Of course, I am Jason Floyd. That is a fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Pete, how you doing here on this Wednesday evening, man?
What's going on, man? New England is getting cold. I'm a little tired of it already, but we got some fights to cheer us up, and I'm excited for this card. But obviously, next week is the big one.
As you say, it's getting cold up there. Just look at the Apple Watch here.
Where you at?
Do you dare want to know what it is right now in Tampa,
Where
Florida?
you at?
85 degrees.
Oh my God! Again, why am I doing this to myself up here? But
bro, we had a morning about 2 weeks ago. It was like 65, man. I was going to the office. It felt great, and we're still it's still hot outside, man. It's still hot outside.
Yeah, you guys are lucky. You guys are definitely lucky.
I don't know if I would say lucky, man. I don't know if I go lucky. It is. Yeah, I mean, look, it's the middle of October. It's still 85 degrees outside. It's 7:30 at night, bro.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, but of course, we are here to break down UFC Fight Night number 6. Of course, we headlined by Brian Ortega and the Korean Zombie. Of course, we did lose one fight today. Was Cyril Gane a guy that was kind of in kind of a guy that you were targeting?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, a tough fight, but Cyril Gane is the real deal. He really is. He's an exceptional talent for that division. Excellent everywhere, great hands, great striking, but has really shown, advances in his game and, has learned the ground game pretty well. So I'm excited to see him in the future and kind of bummed out that he's not on the card because that was an easy gimme, I thought.
Yeah, I want to say he was 9,300, I want to say, on DK.
Yeah, I didn't even get it. I didn't even bother looking at him once the fight got scratched.
Yeah, I can't like talk salaries with you because I know as you're breaking down fights, you're not even looking at the salaries.
Yeah, that's true. It's the last thing I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable, man. I get you. I get what you're doing there. But overall, kind of as you broke down this fight card, is there a fight that stuck out to you stylistically that you're like, man, this one's got a good chance here?
Well, you know that I'm always excited for James Krause. I think that we always back James Krause and Glory MMA. They're just such a talented group of fighters. Outside of that, I'm not the biggest fan of this card, but the main event's interesting. You want to see how Chan Sung Jung, performs in a 5-round bout. You also want to see how Brian Ortega comes back from a long layoff. So, very interesting matchup and will definitely be the highlight of the card.
I already know who's going to Takedown City.
I think I have an idea as well.
It's not that hard to figure out on this card. It is not that hard to figure out on this card. Of course, we are here to break this one down for you. Of course, if you have any questions on the fights, leave those right now in YouTube. Sam, appreciate you checking in here on a Wednesday night. Of course, coming up after us will be the PGA show, so be sure to stick around to watch those guys break down the PGA card for this week. But let's break this one down for you. Let's start off right now in the main event. We have got Brian Ortega versus the Korean Zombie. Brian Ortega, 7,600 on DK. Chan Sung Jung, 8,600. Over on FanDuel, $19 for T-City, $20 for the Korean Zombie. Then over at Super Draft, 1.45 times for Brian Ortega and 1.2 times for the Zombie. Break it down for us, Pete.
Man, Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, I've been following him since his WEC days, his memorable fights against Leonard Garcia. I mean, the guy has been around for quite some time and really made a name over there and brought the momentum with him to the UFC. Had the incredible twister finish over Leonard Garcia, and that was kind of like our introduction to some of Eddie Bravo jiu-jitsu of that, very unorthodox type of style. Chan Sung Jung, though, has some explosive, he's got, I shouldn't say explosive. He has some sneaky pop, and he drops a lot of people and hurts a lot of people. His power is legit. I mean, he just finished Frankie Edgar. Before that, Hanata Moicano. Before that was beating the brakes off of Yair Rodriguez. And then possibly the greatest come-from-behind victory ever. He walked into a last-minute Hail Mary spinning elbow from Yair Rodriguez at 4:59 of round 5. So talk about unlucky. And, it was an incredible move. But this matchup's very, very interesting because Brian Ortega has been away from the cage for so long. You talk about a Gracie black belt who really made his name on the scene, submitting people very quickly. From his back, has great guillotines. The guy has some very, highly notable names to his resume already. He's 14-1. Chan Sung Jung 16-5. I don't see how you avoid the main event this week because of the volume of each guy. We've seen Brian Ortega in a matchup against Max Holloway. Obviously, he lost that due to doctor stoppage in round 4. But there were moments when he was very competitive. And when he wasn't competitive, he was taking a lot of shots. So either way, I expect this fight to be insane, like one of the best fights we've seen in quite some time. Do you have a lean one way or another? Are you favoring Chan Sung Jung? Are you favoring Brian Ortega? What's your thoughts?
I don't really have a lean one way or the other. I think it's kind of like I look at this as the way I looked at last week's main event. Like I think it's a 50-50 type of fight. When the fight is on the feet, I favor Chan Sung Jung. Now, if this fight hits the ground, and that's a big if, I think obviously then you favor Brian Ortega. But it's not like Brian Ortega, even though we know him for his grappling abilities, it's not like he's a guy that's looking to shoot for a takedown immediately. When his stoppages come, typically they're in the third round. Now, look, the 22 months between fights, that definitely is a concern for me. But when we talk about DFS, the fact that Brian Ortega has never gone the distance in the UFC. The last time the Korean Zombie went to a decision, you have to go back to 2010 against Leonard Garcia. Obviously, he had 2 years where he had his mandatory military service, so there's part of that. And the Korean Zombie's never been submitted. Obviously, I do like the team that the Korean Zombie has surrounded himself with. He's primarily with what is now known as he was training at the lab, but he went to Fight Ready when Eddie Cha left the lab and went to Fight Ready. And Eddie Cha actually went out to Korea Eddie's been there for, I want to say, about the last 6 weeks or so before they made their way to Fight Island. So for me, I probably, if you tell me I got to go one way or the other, I probably would a little bit more lean the Korean Zombie. I was actually watching the Frankie Edgar fight back. The UFC put it on IG like yesterday or Monday. And I forgot the fact of Korean Zombie did kind of shuck away some takedown attempts in that fight.
Yeah, people sleep on the Korean Zombie. The Korean Zombie is so talented. My lean for this matchup is the Korean Zombie at 8,600. I do think on a card like this that Brian Ortega at 7,600 is enticing and is a name that you should circle and sprinkle in some lineups. He's definitely in GPP consideration because of when he wins, it's mostly via finish. I can see Chan Sung Jung possibly slipping up and getting caught in a submission, but the more likely scenario is that Chan Sung Jung goes out there and starts to really put it on Brian Ortega. And, there are some questionable things that I heard from some interviews about Brian Ortega saying, he had to basically clean house and did like almost a full sweep of his team and basically kept Henner Gracie. And besides that, looks like he has a lot of new coaching staff. Now, that can be good, and it could be refreshing on one hand. Sometimes it's good to have new eyes or new people surrounding you, but it also can be about not taking blame or accountability for your losses or mistakes or anything like that. Could also be clashes of personality. But for me, I think that after seeing the Max Holloway fight, granted, completely different fighter, but Chan Sung Jung does throw volume like that. I favor Chan Sung Jung here at 8,600. I think it's a decent price. It's not like he's in the 9K where we really have to talk ourselves out of it.
Lee brings up, he says Ortega took more shots against Max than Zombie took in his last 8 fights. Then Samuel says, are you worried about Ortega's ring rust? Look, you could, it's been 10 months since we've seen the Zombie as well. So, obviously 22 months is a much bigger number to throw out there, actually. And the fact is there's actually one other fighter who has a longer layoff on this than Brian Ortega. I would say it would be concerning to me. Typically Ortega is kind of a guy that's a slower starter. He tried to get off to a fast start in the Holloway fight, and some people may have kind of pointed to maybe that kind of actually hurt him in that fight. There was a clip on Aaron Bronster, covers the UFC for TSM. He had an interview with T-City, and kind of alluded to the fact of he knew he needed to make some changes, and basically had people around him that just weren't listening to him. But you know what? I would agree with you. I think it is a fight that you got to look at. I would say I like it more on DK than I do on FanDuel. Just because of FanDuel, obviously you have to always kind of pay up a little bit more for the main event. But I think in terms of of DraftKings, if you're playing in 20, let's say you're playing 20 lineups, I think you got to probably roster this fight in 15 of the 20.
I think, like, FanDuel, the salaries are close, and they usually always are for the main event. That's just how FanDuel goes about their pricing. But I do think that, the DraftKings salaries are a little wide. And, I think it's just based on Ortega being away. Ortega's last performance, he's coming off a loss where Chan Sung Jung, after, that last second, I should say, KO loss to Yair Rodriguez, is on a 2-fight win streak. Seems like he has some momentum on his side, so they're obviously going to favor him. But in my mind, I think it's a closer fight than what the DraftKings salaries say.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's I think it's kind of a 55-45 type fight, but obviously key matchup in the 145-pound division. Also the co-main event is also a key matchup in the women's 125-pound division of Caitlin Chookagian and Jessica Andrade. Chookagian, decision machine. I'm just going to say it. That's what she is. And Jessica Andrade, of course, the former champion who has, at 100, what she's been able to do, at 125 pounds and 135 pounds at one point when she was all the way up there. When you look at Chookagian, all of her UFC wins have come by decision. Her last stoppage win was outside the UFC in 2016 in CFFC. And obviously Andrade, you look at her last two losses. We're talking about against the current champion and the former champion in Rose Namajunas and Weili Zhang here at 115 pounds. Look, I'm never a big let's take Caitlin Chookagian, in DFS. You're just going to need a lot of volume out of her. And I just don't see it. I really believe, I think this is a take Jessica Andrade or pass.
I absolutely agree with you. I think that Caitlin Chookagian's style could make this a weird fight and could lead to weird totals as far as significant strikes or grappling. And, I feel like the stats could be minimal based on her movement. And she moves around a lot, feints a lot, has decent footwork, showed off her grappling in a previous bout. But I don't think that's going to help her here against Jessica Andrade. I do think it's Jessica Andrade's fight. Andrade takes a ton of shots. So that's definitely concerning, especially at this point in her career. She's 20-8, does hold a 70% finish rate, whereas Chookagian holds a 21% finish rate. That's pretty terrible as far as finishing ability in the UFC. I think that it's a Jessica Andrade move on, exactly like you said, or just don't touch the fight, because Chookagian's style can really negate a lot of people's strengths. She can be the matador, whereas Jessica Andrade will be the bull. And whenever you have a stylistic matchup like that, it's less phone booth action, and Jessica Andrade needs to close that distance and get inside. If she gets inside, she could possibly go back to the takedown well that she saw a ton of success in. She captured gold with her takedown. I think that's the way she should go about it, truthfully. But if Chookagian was cheaper, Jason, like say 7,200, 7,100, then I could see what we're talking about. But 7,800 for Chookagian decision machine. For DFS, I say no thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, and people can see your heat sheet up there right now here on the screen. The one thing that does stick out to you, no question, is the reach disadvantage that Jessica Andrade has, and that's just she's we talk about a fighter who's a tall for this division in Caitlin Chookagian at 5'9", taking on the 5'3" Jessica Andrade. That to me is something you gotta you look at. I think that's the only thing scary about it. But I mean, just Chookagian, she's just not she's not a fighter that you target just because you know what you're getting. I will say that what you're getting, and I don't see that there being value on her leading into this fight. If she was $400, $500, $600 less, okay, then I could see value. But where she's at right now, I just don't see the value.
Yeah, agree. So for DFS, straight up bets and live betting, it's possibly not a bad spot to target because her style, like we mentioned. But as far as DFS, I think there are better 7K options that could be optimal.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just, and you look on the FanDuel side of things. I mean, I think fair price on FanDuel at 16 and 15. I still, and then Super Draft 1.4 times for for Chukagian, 1.25 to Andrade. I still say I think it's take Andrade or move on to another matchup. Now, before we move on to the next fight, do want to let you know about Awesemo Plus, where you can get access to all the great tools and contents we have over Awesemo Plus for nearly every DFS sport out there, with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our premium Slack account, and much more. And if you're only looking to play MMA, you can sign up for an MMA weekly pass for $8.95. You see it right there on the screen where you can sign up if you just want an MMA weekly pass. These are tools that Alex puts together for every sport. It is why he is the #1 DFS player in the world, and I am using those tools every day. Doesn't whether we're talking MMA, especially MLB right now. In those showdown single game contests that we're getting, and it's tools that you got to use there. And of course, if you're just looking for MMA, you got to sign up for that weekly pass for $8.95. As of course, we're 1 week away from a pay-per-view, so sign up for that pass right now to get you ready for the next 2 weeks of mixed martial arts action. Next up, we got a light heavyweight matchup: Jimmy Crute and Modestas Bukauskas. Jimmy Crute 9,000, Modestas 7,200 over on FanDuel, $19 for Jim, $10 for Modestas, and over on SuperDraft, 1.1 times for Jim and 1.6 times for Modestas. Pete, let me know what your thoughts on this one are.
I think this fight can, be a part of a ton of, winning lineups. I really do. I think that, Jimmy Crute definitely has the grappling advantage, and we've seen Modestas Bukauskas, regionally struggle with very, very strong grapplers. And I think that's the route to go if you're fighting Bukauskas, because he does have significant pop, good finishing ability, 91% finish rate. He's 11-2, so that's pretty impressive. Jimmy Crute does have the better overall game, and he knows his strengths. Sometimes he'll strike enough just to get you to bite, and then he'll shoot some takedowns, averaging 4.63 per 15 minutes. That is crazy. That's some pretty good numbers. He'll probably come in here as the slightly smaller guy, inch in height, 4 inches in reach to Bukauskas. But the thing with Bukauskas that I like Jimmy Crute to take advantage of is his takedown defense. Now, Bukauskas has kind of gotten away with a move that can be very detrimental to him in the future. And what that move is instead of defending double leg takedowns properly, he starts just automatically going for elbow strikes instead of defending, trapping the hands or fighting for underhooks or definitely having the whizzer and trying to, pivot off the cage. He just is so dependent on cracking elbows that I think, could lead to a better grappler, Jimmy Crute, taking advantage of that and working towards a finish. So Bukauskas throws heat and kind of got lucky in the previous matchup where, his opponent didn't answer the bell. But, 1-0 in the UFC to be fighting Jimmy Crute, who has a ton of hype. Jimmy Crute's living in a van outside the gym, Jason, because he's so committed. Like, that's what he does in his fight camps. He lives in a van. And I really like that. I admire that. That's like a hungry athlete. That's putting yourself in the trenches to excel. That is just fully committing yourself. I'm jealous. I love the story. It's Jimmy Crute for me at 9,000.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up because I fired off that tweet to you the other day. Here's my question. I talk to so many fighters, and the one thing that they always talk about is the thing that you don't realize how important is in your preparation for a fight is sleep. How can you be maximizing sleep living in a van?
Maybe
now, are we talking like this is just a plain old van, or are we talking like this is a mini RV? That to me is the question.
He's got solar power. He's got running water. This is things that he mentioned in the interview. So this ain't just like some van down by the river. This is like a pretty nice van apparently that he's invested in. This is like a mobile home, so to speak, and I think it's pretty neat. But you are completely correct. Rest is very important, and you can train so hard, but if you overtrain, we've seen Junior Dos Santos do that, where you overtrain so much, your body starts fighting itself and starts breaking down everything that you've built. And yeah, it definitely can be detrimental to your cardio. Weight cutting, that's possibly why you see a ton of misses on weight cuts. I do understand what you're saying in that situation. That's something that's like an X factor that we really don't know. But I think that Jimmy Crute is a nice play at 9,000. And based on everything, based on how he fights, how he's going to need to get rid of Bukakis, it should be his fight. But if he slips up and he fatigues because he's tired from sleeping in a van, he could get knocked out by Bukakis.
I think this might be a must roster fight.
I think so too. Truthfully, I really do.
Jimmy Crute is a guy that he's a finisher, plain and simple, and he finishes early. Modestus, he's a finisher as well. Both these guys want to strike, even though I think Jim could go more to a grappling base in this one because I think, look, I've talked to Modestus probably a handful of times over the last year, so I'm very aware of who he is and what he is as a fighter, and he knows that everyone is going to want to challenge his grappling. He understands that. He's fully aware. So that's all they're doing in his camp. Yes, they're, still, he understands what his strength is with his striking. But, it's a great point you bring up with elbows. But I think that Modestus as a punt play this week, I think he's a, it's not a bad punt play, but it's also a punt play where it could, it could result in 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of pump plays on here that I don't like. So like 7K options that I, am kind of crossing off because I just don't think that there's a legitimate shot. Bukakis is one of the guys, if he wins, it's early, or if he wins by stoppage. So he's definitely a guy I am circling.
Yeah, I mean, he's won 7 in a row. All those have come by finish. Jimmy Crute, 3-1 in the UFC, has not gone the distance since 2008. That fight came outside the UFC. And 4 of his last 5 fights have ended in the first round. You tell a DFS player that, they're like, okay, I like that. First round, I mean, so, I think I just look at this fight and I say either side, I think to me, it's a must, like if we're using the 20 lineup analogy, I think 70% of your lineups.
Yeah, I probably won't avoid this fight mostly.
How can you? I don't know how you can.
Okay, well, because, Bukakis throws heavy and, Jimmy Crute to me doesn't look like the best striker, but he does look like a very overall talented mixed martial artist. Whereas Bukakis kind of does look a little one-dimensional. And anytime you're approaching a matchup where somebody can get exposed, you want to smash exposure there, obviously. So it's like, Crute could take him down to Takedown City and just totally out-grapple him and pound him like crazy. And then we're sitting there looking at 100-plus points from Jimmy Crute. And, or Bukakis lands a shot. So I wouldn't avoid this fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can, the position that Modestus is in right now is a position that Jimmy Crute was in not that long ago. It's one of the more interesting fights for me personally on the card, so looking forward to that one. Then we got a matchup between Claudio Silva and James Krause, a fight that now has been elevated to the main card. James Krause, $8,500, $7,700 for Claudio Silva. Over on FanDuel, $17 for Krause, $13 for Silva. And then over on SuperDraft, 1.55 times for Claudio Silva, 1.15 times for James Krause. Claudio Silva, he lost his pro debut, hasn't lost since. He's rolled off 14 wins in a row. His last 3 wins have come by submission, 2 in the first round. He had an inactivity of about 3 years. Prior to inactivity, he got a split decision win over Leon Edwards. Yes, that Leon Edwards, something to throw out there. Of course, it's the first time we've seen James Krause since that controversial split decision loss back in February against Trevin Giles that did snap a 6-fight winning streak, I should say. And what's your take on this one?
I think it's an interesting matchup. I do think that, Silva was originally supposed to fight Muslim Salikov. And then, with Salikov not being able to compete, James Krause steps in as the hero once again. And, James Krause is kind of like relishing in this role of taking last-minute fights. And whether it's up a weight class or whatnot, just showing the UFC that he's game ready because the guy owns one of the best gyms out there right now. He's training all the time. He's grappling all the time. He's teaching all the time. He's sparring all the time. So, he's surrounded by talent and he's constantly throwing himself. That's how you have a good coach. It's not the guy that's always just sitting on the sidelines pointing fingers and all that. Like, you could be a good coach that way, but hands-on coaching is like some of the best in the world. And like, when people get in there and they're mixing it up with you, your coach is trying to take your head off or putting you in bad positions. I mean, the guy has an incredible record, 27-8, dating back to the WEC. He's 8-4 in the UFC. It's a puzzle that he's trying to solve in this matchup against Claudio Silva. And he mentioned it because nobody's really been able to figure out Silva. Leon Edwards couldn't do it, Nordy Taleb, Danny Roberts, Cole Williams. But like the three previous names I mentioned are pretty notable names in the UFC. Like, you know, and he's going in there and getting victories. Granted, Leon Edwards was 6 years ago, but still, like, this guy has a high grappling pedigree. But so does James Krause. I do think that Claudio Silva's grappling is better than James Krause. And probably, you know, if the striking is definitely on James Krause's side. I think this is going to be a back and forth contest. And Silva at 7,700, based on his, you know, his takedown ability and what he has done in the UFC, I don't think you can count him out. I really don't think you can count him out, even though I think James Krause makes this a very difficult fight. Standing up, transitioning, switching stances, knees up the middle. He tends to go to the takedown well more than a lot of people. And I don't think he'd be doing that. But it's always interesting when a guy tries to challenge a black belt's game. And it's pretty unexpected if they go that route.
Of course, this is the MMA Strategy Show. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button right here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, notification bell. Of course, we always have programming here over at Awesemo.com. And check that out right now over at Awesemo.com. So be sure to hit that thumbs up button. That really does help us out a lot. I will tell you, I get a chance to talk to a lot of James's fighters inside his gym there at Glory MMA Fitness in Lee Summit, Missouri. I was actually talking to Jason High last week. Got a big win, his first fight back in 2 years last week at FAC. And he was telling me, he's like, oh, yeah, man, me and James, we trash talk each other all the time. And then so I'm talking to Jason Witt, who fights on Halloween night here in the UFC. We were talking about James, and, you know, he talks about the structure James brings to your training of, you know, before every camp, he sits down, he makes a schedule. Hey, this is what you're going to do. But he had told me, we were talking about how, you know, because James loves trash talk, and he loves when his opponents trash talk. He said there's a 40-year-old amateur inside their gym that literally trash talks James the whole time.
That's cool, man.
And he goes, and they just go to battle.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, look, I think the fighters respect that he's in there training like crazy with them. Then he holds pads for everybody, and then focuses on himself. I mean, it's pretty damn cool. I think Krause at 8,500. I'm actually, you know, Joe in the chat brings up a great point. He goes, I'm actually shocked how Silva's the cheaper fighter than Krause. And when I was breaking down film, and then I know that Krause stepped up on, you know, relative short notice, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a smash spot for us with Krause because he's going to be the cheaper guy. You know, now that Silva is, you know, the underdog on DraftKings, it's interesting. It really is, because the guy is talented, and I don't think that Trevin Giles is on the same level. And I think, you know, James Krause could be put in some tough spots.
Yeah, just looking at the line movement, James Krause opened at minus 215. Now it's minus 165. So tells you where the betting public sees this one going. But yeah, when you're talking about looking for those under 8,000 spots, maybe this is one of those spots that you do look at here. Let's move on to the card, the opening fight of the main card. It'll be Thomas Almeida and Jonathan Martinez's fight that came together about, I guess about a week ago, I want to say. You know, in Almeida, we have not seen him since January of 2018. It has been almost 33 months since we've seen him in action. And I was listening to John Good, who's calling the fights on ESPN Plus. He was talking about their fighter meeting with Jonathan Martinez, which anyone who's ever talked to Jonathan, he's a very soft-spoken guy. Doesn't say a ton. He's not a fighter that, you know, elaborates on for 1 minute, 2, 3 minutes. He's just a soft-spoken guy. And he said, he goes, we're doing the fighter interviews, and all of a sudden he puts his phone out, and start showing us like his street fight videos where he looks like Jorge Masvidal.
That's fantastic. That is cool. Yeah, I mean, you know Martinez pretty well. I mean, you've been interviewing him for quite some time. This is my least favorite price range, obviously, 8,200, 8,000. And it seems like each week we're always targeted with a fight where you have a guy on the rise who has really good momentum lately. And then you have a guy that used to be, highly touted as a prospect that could be the real deal, but he has kind of fallen from greatness. So it's kind of like, let's test the guy with the momentum with the guy that has the high profile name and, should have amounted to more. What are we going to get in this situation? And I really don't know, Jason. I mean, like, I do think that people are kind of not giving Almeida enough credit in his losses. And I think that they're thinking people, anybody can replicate that. But Rob Font is a very, very talented fighter. Lost a decision to Jimmy Rivera. Jimmy Rivera kind of decisions everybody. And then lost to Cody Garbrandt by knockout. Outside of that, Jason, the guy has been an animal. I know that he's on a rough patch and hasn't been in the cage in quite some time, but the guy has so many finishes, 95% finish rate for 22 victories. Martinez has a 75% finish rate in 12 victories. I think the boxing advantage absolutely favors Almeida. Absolutely favors Almeida. The way that he dips his head and stays forward is a worry for me because Jonathan Martinez throws some of the most beautiful knees up the middle. Beautiful knees up the middle. You saw it in Frankie Saenz. We've seen him hurt multiple people and finish them that way. But I also always have like these little highlight memories, like these memories that keep pulling me away from Jonathan Martinez of where like Andre Sukumtat dropped him countless times, or dropped him one time. I'm sorry. And kept clipping him and outstriking him, so it's like, where is he really at? Where are they both at in their careers right now?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things I wrote down about Almeida. You look at his losses, Garbrandt, Rivera, Font.
Yep.
High quality opponents.
Yeah. That's high quality opponents. Martinez, just because Martinez hasn't fought a high quality opponent doesn't mean that he's not able to. I think that the price range of the 8,200, 8,000 kind of makes this fight nearly unavoidable. I mean, based on their finishing rate, Almeida has been finished 2 out of his past, 4 fights now. Martinez could just be taking the school here. Like, y'all must have forgot how good Thomas Almeida is. He goes in there and just absolutely mollywops him. I'm not avoiding this fight for most of my lineups, but for me, and I may be alone on this island, I will have a slight lean to Almeida just because of I think it's kind of like recency bias for Jonathan Martinez, and a lot of fans are kind of nearsighted and short-sighted, and they don't really see the big picture. But I'm not avoiding Jonathan Martinez. He's one of my favorite plays.
No, you can't. I don't. This is one of those fights that I would agree with you. I don't think you can avoid it. You look at Thomas Almeida. 20 of his 21 wins are via finish, 17 via TKO and KO. I mean, this guy is a finisher, but the fact of that, we have not seen him since January of 2018. He hasn't won a fight since 2016. That leads you a question mark. But this is one of those fights where, and Jonathan Martinez is a guy that he is a finisher. Sometimes it does come later in the fight, but he has had some decisions as well. But that price point, you got to kind of like that price point with these two guys. But let's move on to the prelims. You got Gamrot and Guam, 2 guys making their UFC debuts. Gamrot definitely is a guy that I've got my attention on here.
Yeah, and you should. Mateus Gamrot, 17, he has only a 53% finish rate. So if you're looking for a finisher, he's not really the guy, but he's a grinder, and his grappling is exceptional. His wrestling is exceptional. His striking's not bad either. I mean, the guy is 17-0. He really can't be bad in one area and be 17-0 because you're going to come across somebody that's going to expose you. 17-0 is something that's quite unheard of. Guram Kutaladze, probably butchered that, but, has some sneaky kicks, and that's his path to victory is, going the kicking route, hiding his kicks with some shoulder movement, some head movement. But outside of a kicker's chance, man, like, I think that Gamrot, this is kind of like business as usual for him. I mean, he's fought 17 other opponents that haven't been able to do it. And I don't know if this guy has really fought somebody with the grappling credentials that Gamrot has. So, 8,900, I will say that, that's a possible takedown city spot, but maybe not the best score just because of, like, Kutaladze is not really terrible. And it's UFC debut for both guys. And, whenever you have both guys in there, it's kind of like, I will take a patient approach. I'll kind of take a wait and see how these guys actually materialize. But if I'm playing anybody, Jason, I'm probably playing Gamrot 8,900 and just, hoping for the best.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about he's fought, tough competition there. In KSW, a very interesting UFC debut in terms of him. But, yeah, this is one that I think, potentially have to look at it. And you mentioned about going down to Takedown City, which we'll talk about Takedown City here momentarily because we know someone who likes to frequent Takedown City. I guess would be about the best way to put it. We'll get to that fighter here.
He's got frequent flyer miles to Takedown City. All right. Yeah, we'll definitely get to him.
Yeah. Then we got a female matchup: Julian Roberson against Pauliana Bolotello. What's your take on this one, man?
You know what I mean? Like I feel like there are some fighters, Jason, where, like, when I finally want to back them, it's just like, man, I don't think it's the right time. Like, I've always been on the opposite side. So, like, Chan Sung Jung, I don't have the best of luck with some of his fights. I kind of count him out sometimes. Not counting him out in this matchup. I've counted Roberson out before. She's a relentless pressure type of grappler, but definitely is limited. And, she knows her strength. So it's always good when a fighter knows their strength. They're not straying away from it or going to their weakness. And I know that sounds like the most obvious thing in the world, but, when that cage door locks and the pressure's on and, things get crazy in there, and next thing you know, you're where you didn't want to be. It just kind of happens. I shouldn't say you black out in there, but early on in your career, you do kind of not remember your fights at all. You're going off of instinct and not out of calculated thought. Robertson at 8,700 is going to look to take her to the mat constantly and work towards a submission. But Bolotello thus far has really shown that she can defend a lot of takedowns. 88% takedown defensive rating. She is 3-1 in the UFC. Has the striking advantage, has a very, very powerful kick. I don't mind her at 7,500. I really don't. I don't mind her at 7,500. I do think that Robertson could be a reach here because if she can't get the fight to the mat, how does she win?
Yeah, that's and the other thing with Bolotello is the first fight since April 2019. So that kind of goes into it there. And, obviously it's a noble matchup there. The 8,700 price tag on Robertson is a little concerning to me.
Yeah, so that's the same thing with me is, like, I wanted her to beat a little cheaper. I was hoping like 8,300. Then I could kind of talk myself into it. Now, I won't avoid Robertson because I know if she wins, it's through tons of volume via grappling. And then it's also women's MMA, which has been pretty volatile lately. We've seen a lot of stuff happen. And Bolotello, is surrounded by a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. I know Robertson just got hers. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see who implements their game plan. But if Bolotello keeps it on the feet, Jason, we have seen Robertson kind of shell up, take damage, get finished. That's kind of what I'm expecting to happen here.
How's the armbar from guard for Bolotello? I mean, I feel like that's got to be part of the Pete the Heat breakdown.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's in play. I definitely can't. I can't stress it enough. It is definitely in play in this matchup. I think it's a close fight. I really do. Minus 200 in women's MMA outside of top contenders, I think is a little crazy. I think this is a closer fight than, what the odds are saying.
Now, when we talk about going to Takedown City, John Phillips, as you say, is a frequent visitor of Takedown City.
Yeah, he might be the mayor. I don't know. Phillips. I like the guy's style. Let me pull up this guy's.
Let's just say John Phillips wants to throw some bungalows.
Yeah, man. So,
he wants to throw hands. He's not interested in grappling.
Let me just say that I really don't understand how John Phillips is still in the UFC, and I'm not knocking him. I'm just stating facts. I don't really know how. I know that his style is what the UFC, the team, what they like. They like guys that just throw caution to the wind and go for it. But why do you keep matching them up with grapplers if that's why you like them? Match them up with strikers. Give them fun fights. We see Joaquin Buckley with possibly the craziest knockout of all time. He just, he's on the rise. You're not going to see them put prospects against volatile matchups. And I'm not saying Phillips is a prospect, but you know what he is. Stop giving him grapplers. Give him strikers if you're going to keep him around.
Yeah, I mean it's look, if you want to be in John Phillips' business, you're spot on. It's about give him someone who's going to sit there and strike with him. I mean, look, any coach who is coaching their guy against John Phillips, the first thing they're going to say is, we're looking to take this thing to the ground because we know where his weakness is. We know he is susceptible to the submission. So to me, this is what I mean. Look, if John Phillips can somehow keep this fight on the feet, okay, you know what? As a punt play, okay, but I just don't think he can keep it on the feet.
Yeah, I mean, he's a puncher's chance molded into a human body. I mean, Phillips, 7,400. He had a ton of finishes, Jason, and when he wins big. 100% finish rate out of 22 victories. But guess what? It's because they're matching, early on in his career against strikers. And, when they come over to, the big leagues, people are going to expose your weaknesses. That's why you have to be ready everywhere when you make it to the big leagues, because smart camps are not going to go to test you in your strong areas. They're going to go to your weak areas. And, Park in this matchup, when I saw his name, I had to do a little digging because, I thought that he was somebody else. I'm like, oh, man, Phillips is finally in a striking matchup. Not really. Park goes for the takedowns quite a bit, averages 3 per 15 minutes. His takedown accuracy is 50%, but Phillips in his UFC career, he's 1-4 and has 11% takedown defensive rating. That is pretty terrible. Phillips 7,400, he's a fun play because if you want to, sit on the edge of your seat and just hope that he knows how to, stay off the mat. And when he's standing up, like you see in the Khamzat Chimaev, he closed his eyes, Jason, and he swung for the bleachers. But then he was on his back, and then it was, game over after that. So Park is not a bad play whatsoever if he goes to takedown well. Hopefully he's not lured into a brawl, because if he's lured into a brawl, I start favoring Phillips anytime that it's a stand-up fight.
Of course, this is the MMA Strategy Show right here on Awesemo.com. And every day over at Awesemo.com, we have free premium content. Let you know today here on Wednesday, our free premium content is NFL rankings and PGA player projections. Of course, the PGA show is coming up after us. And, of course, if you ever miss our show live and you want to listen to us on the go, we are available on the Awesemo Podcast Network. So be sure check us out there. You can get all those links right there at Awesemo.com. Let's move on to the next matchup. What's your thoughts on, Malarkey here at 8,300?
This matchup, man. Every week, man, we're giving one hot garbage matchup, and this is the hot garbage matchup of the week. You have Malarkey, who's taken a ton of damage. They're both 0-1 in the UFC. He took a ton of damage in his fight against Brad Riddell. The guy, he has decent striking, decent grappling, decent MMA fighter. That's what I'll say is Malarkey, 92% finish rate out of 12 victories. Ziam is definitely the stronger striker, the more superior and explosive striker, but has more weaknesses. Like, he's not as well-rounded as Malarkey. Malarkey should look to take it down. He has averaged 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. Granted, that was one UFC fight, and but if he could take Ziam down, it should be quick work. I mean, Ziam has been working towards his grappling. I see a ton of videos. He's a glory kickboxer coming over. And, truthfully, Ziam, I kind of found some similarities with myself when I was looking at his style and kind of like seeing, him early on transferring over into MMA, just a striker trying to compete against a bunch of grapplers or a bunch of wrestlers that are just trying to take you down. We have seen him really put in the time. Hasn't really showed it. Doesn't have the best takedown defense. One fight in UFC, 75%. That's pretty good. But, definitely holes in his game down there. And I know that he's been grinding towards it. 7,900 for Zion that can knock out a guy in Malarkey who has been knocked out quite a bit. I don't hate it, Jason. Malarkey has been TKO'd twice. So Zion's a 7,900 guy that I'm circling. I really am. 7K guy that I'm circling. Despite, and every time you pick 7K guys, you should never feel comfortable. Like, it's very rare that you feel comfortable rostering it. That's just, MMA DFS. You don't feel comfortable with the 7K options usually, unless it's like a main event. And then it's like, you're talking about the number 1 ranked guy against the number 2 ranked guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's a nice spot. But in this matchup, 7,900, if he lands some big shots, he'll probably knock out Malarkey.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point you bring up on the 7K options. It's like Antigulov at 7,100. No, thank you. No, thank you. I mean, this is a guy that was, he started 2-0 in the UFC. I want to say it was submission wins that he had off, but he's lost 3 in a row, being finished in the first round in his last 3 fights. He's only made it out of the first round 3 times in his career. Of course, Grisham lost his UFC debut against Tybura back in July. Like to me, we talked about earlier on about how it's take Jessica Andrade or pass against Chukagian. To me, it is take Matchroom Grisham or pass.
Yeah, I don't think that this week is like a ton of juicy, nice spots for underdogs. Like, I think that there are few spots that we can target. I'll kind of let the public and other people take chances on these guys. I don't really want to put my money on Antigulov 7,100. I know what he is. He's a round 1 guy and a round 1 guy only. But in round 1, he's extremely dangerous, Jason. So you kind of know what you're getting with him. He's going to go and give you 5 extremely hard 5 minutes. He's going to go for takedowns. He's going to throw crazy punches. He's going to go for pressure. He's going to go for chokes. But after that, if his opponent survives it or defends anything, he is shot. Like, he is shot. And he doesn't have the best takedown defense either. I mean, in the UFC, he has a 0% takedown defense. That's pretty terrible. 42% takedown accuracy. If Grisham's able to stuff a couple, you start to really zap that energy. And it's not like Grisham's amazing. He's not. He's not amazing. His record 30-8-2 is amazing, but in the UFC, he's relatively untested. 0-1 in the UFC, priced up at 9,100 based on the failure of Antigulov, over his career of what he does. He drops off a cliff. Maybe they address it this camp, Jason. Like, as fighters, right? You're always making changes and you're always trying to progress and become a better fighter. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's done something behind the scenes we don't know, but the smart decision is take Grisham and move on.
Yeah, I think that is a very easy thing there. I want no part of Antigulov in that matchup. Then our opening fight of the night, Nurmagomedov versus Striegel. Obviously, Striegel making his UFC debut here. Of course, we all know the name Nurmagomedov. Yep. I know when I was looking yesterday at the fight to go the distance, this is the one that had the highest prop bet.
Yeah, Syed Nurmagomedov, had a lot of hype around him, obviously, because of the last name. And in the UFC, he's looked pretty good. Win over Justin Scoggins, Ricardo Ramos. That was a very nice performance. And then, dropping a decision to Raoni Barcelos. Raoni Barcelos is very, very good. But, his opponent, Mark Striegel, is very good, too. He just hasn't really had the shot in the UFC. 18-2, comes in 78% finish rate, all by, all his wins, all his finishes coming by submission, which is pretty interesting. So he's definitely, his strength is on the mat. And Nurmagomedov does like to keep it up on the feet if he has a striking advantage. If he has a grappling advantage, he'll look to take his opponents to the mat. I think that he's going to want to keep this up because if he initiates on the mat, Striegel is sneaky. He is slick. So 7K for a guy that is so slick on the mat, you got to look at him. Like, you got to look at him. But 9,200 Nurmagomedov makes a ton of sense. As far as who should win the fight, best DFS score, probably not. I might go a little underweight on Nurmagomedov based on the weight class, based on the stylistic matchup. But, Nurmagomedov, if he is going to live up to the family name, or he's going to, make some noise in this division, this is a fight you win. I don't care how talented Striegel is on the mat.
With $21 on FanDuel, though?
Yeah, that's a no for me. And it's a 9,200 no for me, dog, as well. So.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Of course, if you do have any listener questions, we'll get some questions in there. I know over on Slack, we got asked for our straight up picks. So here it goes for me, straight up picks, not DFS picks, straight up picks. Give me the Zombie, give me Andrade, give me Mma Dfs in the upset.
Wow.
Give me Krause, give me Almeida, give me Gamrot, give me Roberson, Park, Malarkey, Grisham, and Nurmagomedov.
Oh, you got what's your hate against Vans, bro? He's in a van and now you just hate him. All right, I'm gonna go Chan Sung Jung, Jessica Andrade, Kroot. I will say Silva, Almeida. Who'd you take? Almeida Martinez. I didn't even hear.
I took
that.
Almeida.
Okay, I'll take Almeida as well. Gamrot, Bolotello, Park, Zion, Grishin, and Nurmagomedov.
Of course, if you want to look at the betting odds for this one, just go to Awesemo.com. Odds Shopper. You can shop the odds for these fights when you're looking to place a bet. Of course, also be sure to sign up for Awesemo Plus Weekly Pass, $29.95. Or if you just want that MMA Weekly Pass, $8.95. So be sure to check that out over at Awesemo.com. We'll get a couple of questions in here before we get out of here. Some questions that maybe we haven't talked about, throughout the show here. So kind of going down here. Let's see here. What's the fight that'll break the slate?
Fight that'll break the slate. I think the Kroot Bukauskas fight is one that I think could break the slate because of just how it is.
Yeah.
The main event, obviously, as well. I mean, it depends on the ownership too.
Yeah, exactly. Samuel goes, his guys' usual questions: top two heavy favorites, top two underdogs, upset of the night, top two fights to target. Let's start top two fights to target. To me, it is the main event, and it is Kroot Mma Dfs.
I'm on par with you.
Upset of the night, I've already picked. I gave my upsets Mma Dfs to pull off the upset.
That's interesting. Upset, I will say. God, they're all so bad. Like, as far as upsets, well, I guess I'll say Zion. No. I'll go Bolotello. I like that one.
Top two heavy favorites for me. Give me Grisham at 9,100, and then give me Park at 8,800.
I will say Gamrot and Grishin. Yeah, Gamrot and Grishin.
In terms of top two underdogs, I'd probably say, if I'm not saying Mma Dfs because I picked him, I would say Claudio Silva and probably Bolotello.
I'm right on par with you, buddy. Those are, like, for me, are two people that I'll be targeting more than like some other options.
Samuel, appreciate you in the super chat. He goes, what are the fights or fighters you guys are more excited about on DraftKings?
I would say the DraftKings guys got to be, Gamrot based on takedown, but Park as well based on takedown.
Yeah. In terms of DraftKings, I'm trying to find some ones under 8,000. Ortega's interesting. Not sure what to expect out of him.
It's really hard to know because, like, there's so many X factors. I kind of like it when you don't hear from a fighter for quite some time. That kind of means like they're really zoned in. So So we'll have to see.
We also got this question about what fight are we missing that'll be lower owned but end up being optimal.
Could be Almeida. I think Martinez is going to be popular.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up our ownership projections to see what fight is kind of drawing some low ownership. Wow, your boy Ziam is really low, is the lowest owned.
He's so low owned because he's so one dimensional. It's true. Like, he's really, really one dimensional. He hasn't hit his stride yet, but it takes time to really, earn your stripes and get good at grappling. It does. It took me a really long time, and now I feel really confident in it. And until he goes out there and he starts stuffing some takedowns or, forcing guys to stand up with him, he'll start to, once he gets confidence. Confidence is the most important thing for a fighter.
Oh, no question. It was when I was talking to Joe Schilling about it, he talked about it wasn't until he won the Glory tournament that, the confidence really came. And he said once that happened, it changed everything around for him. So, but yeah, it's been great sitting here talking with you, Pete. I would say I'd talk to you on Saturday, but I'm not talking to you on Saturday.
Yeah, unfortunately, I won't be here on Saturday, but I'm not worried. I know that you got everything. I know that you'll have a great co-host. We'll be good.
Our man Josh will be joining me.
Yeah, and what's better than that? I mean, that's awesome. If we helped you out at all and you like this show and you want us to keep coming back, smash that like button. Give us a follow on Twitter.
And of course, just remember, Pete, you gotta set your alarm the following Saturday. I'm good. We on at 9 a.m.
I'm good. I honestly got a little nervous when I knew I couldn't. When I thought I couldn't do this weekend, I'm like, please don't tell me it's the good card. Please don't tell me it's the good card. And I'm like, okay, it's not. So if I'm gonna miss a card, I kind of don't like. I don't mind. I don't mind not like missing. This one's okay. I'll still play. I'll still answer questions on Twitter. Hit me up. Best I can. I'll answer. But Jason's got you guys. You guys are in good hands.
And we'll be in Slack as well on Saturday. Myself and Josh will both be in there, so check us out there. But that is going to do it for the strategy show right here at Awesemo.com. Coming up next is a PGA strategy show, so be sure to check those guys out right here at Awesemo.com.